Mr. Farenthold.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I've been actively involved in conference overspending and have actually sponsored bills with respect to this. But the VA spending on conferences, to me, seems more egregious than any of the others, especially when you look at the backlog of claims some of our veterans are facing. And we're looking at 717,000 backlog claims in excess of 125 days in some cases. And so if you'll, I'm going to digress for a second on those backlog claims to set the stage for some conference questions. Secretary Shinseki sought to blame the claims backlog on the government shutdown when he testified before Congress on October 9th. And I'd like to ask you, Ms. Farisi, is it true that the Department only furloughed 4% of its employees during the government shutdown?
At the time of the shutdown, yes, there would have been more employees furloughed had the government not come back on.
We got it going in only 4%. Let me ask Mr. Murray, since you're the finance guy. The VA has pretty much been exempted from cuts and sequestration. Is that correct?
It depends on the program. For instance, we did furlough OIT, information technology employees.
All right. And isn't it true that Congress has pretty much met every request from the Department to increase its funding to process the backlog claims? I believe the Department actually received around $300 million in the continuing resolution that would have ended the shutdown. So it seems the VA has the money to reduce the backlog of claims. Why haven't we seen a significant decrease, and where do we see this problem getting solved? Ms. Farisi, I'll let you take a stab at that.
Congressman, the Secretary's goal is 2015 for the backlog on those records. They have made significant progress. They have used the use of overtime. They have trained the employees. Training is critical to the mission. Training is critical to us being able to continue
Well, let us talk for a second about backlog, or I'm sorry, about overtime, because during this process, the committee, and during these investigations of the conference spending, the committee found the Department employees received overtime pay for days in which they participated in activities entirely unrelated to the conferences. I have a problem with overtime to plan the conferences to begin with, but we're looking at helicopter rides and spa treatments. I mean, wouldn't that overtime have been better spent on employees who are actually processing veterans' claims?
Congressman, absolutely right. That is extremely disturbing, and I would expect my leaders in the future to have and execute good fiduciary responsibilities.
All right. Well, earlier this year, the House passed H.R. 313, the Government Spending and Accountability Act of 2013, which caps non-military spending on conferences and requires a detailed, itemized report on Federal conference spending. That bill is designed to ensure that conferences are for training and work purposes rather than taxpayer-funded vacations. It also adds transparencies and measures to remove loopholes from the President's Executive Order 13589 entitled Promoting Effective Spending. Earlier this year, I sponsored that bill, and it was passed. Unfortunately, it appears, at least in this case, and this is before the bill, the VA people lost sight of what the purposes of these conferences were for training. And we have no itemized expense report for those. And Mr. Griffin, you've testified you don't think there's a way to actually find out how much was spent. Is that correct?
We did the best we could to review available receipts, and that's where we came up with the number, but we are not confident that that is 100% of the expense.
Ms. Farisi, Mr. Murray, don't you think it's important that we keep detailed information on what we're spending the taxpayers' money on?
It is extremely important, and the new policies that were put into place in 2012 will allow us to keep this information. And when the handbook and directive are out, we'll complete that. But we have been doing that kind of accountability since 2012.
And I understand you all are working on a web portal for some of this information. Do we have any idea what that's costing? We're not going in the healthcare.gov $600 million range, are we?
Can you answer that?
I do not, but we can take a look at that.
All right. It seems the government has a bad habit of spending a little bit too much money on websites. But that being said, is there a process in place to try to move some of this training that's done at these high-dollar conferences to online. You look at what the general trend is in the training community now. You look at sites like lynda.com, totaltraining.com. You've got GoToMeeting and Google Hangouts, all sorts of opportunities to do this online. Do y'all have can you give me a quick overview of what y'all are trying to do to move more of this stuff online?
Congressman, yes, you're absolutely right. We have a talent management system which has numerous courses online. We do webcasts, we do other virtual blended training, and we are looking into the future to continue to do more of that training because we absolutely agree training can be accomplished in other forms.
All right, well, I see that my time has expired. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Let me recognize